Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Loki, Journey into Mystery. And I'm kind of torn on this episode. I liked a lot of the different kind of stuff that we got throughout, like, knowledge and everything, but not a lot happened in this episode. Very reminiscent of the Lamentus episode, where it was kind of boring overall, but you still got pertinent information. The thing is, this was just a little less boring with certain things going on, but it overall, it had a lot of information that kind of like changed up some stuff and really opened up pretty much a big proponent of who is behind what's going on here. But it just was not as interesting as it could have been, and needed better flow and pacing, I think. So, let's kind of do some stuff first to kind of link up with what's kind of going on. We do get into our Loki that we've been following from Endgame, doing his stuff and everything. But let's focus on Sylvie and Renslayer first. They pretty much have a powwow where they pretty much exposition dump kind of what's going on, figuring out that when you're pruned and when all the stuff that is pruned happens, it gets tossed into the void. That's where Loki's at. Now, this is kind of interesting kind of terminology to use because there can be a literal place, the void, that we have, and there's also a literal being, the void, which is tied to another Marvel character, the Sentry. We'll kind of have to see if that anything plays out, but for all intents and purposes, it is more just a physical place that is essentially their dumping ground for anything that's pruned, because the law of conservation of mass and energy. If you destroy that kind of stuff, it kind of has to go somewhere. You have to be a pretty powerful being or a powerful kind of like collection of elemental forces to forcibly erase something from existence, because it still has to kind of go somewhere. And in this case, it's pretty much just like, whoop, everything goes there. And they're trying to figure out kind of like what would be beyond there. It's like, because that's the literal end of time, and the timekeepers are supposedly doing their kind of thing to make a whole utopia and everything. It's like, all right. So what do you kind of do with that? Because Sylvie, of course, brings up like something was going on in our apocalypse that could have like spiked something. So obviously they can try and attempt to do something potentially, I guess, at the void place to kind of either go beyond it or break through it. And of course, Renslayer's pretty much playing keep away kind of at this point, to be like trying to keep her doing her own thing, using Miss Minutes to try and like look into a prototype vehicle that's supposed to go beyond the void and all that, and all the kind of stuff that's about the end of time. But of course, Sylvie's able to see through it, and also has her temp pad as well, as pretty much soldiers come in to kind of like take her, and they pretty much try and play off of each other. She's like, hey, if you come out, I'll put you in a time loop of your best kind of memories. And it's like, this chick really doesn't have best memories. You know? Especially since you don't even remember why you picked her up as a variant to begin with. So, Sylvie pretty much has the temp pad, and is like, okay, I gotta go get Loki. So she prunes herself, and the people are like, why would you do that? Because she learned that pruning is not the end-all be-all of everything. That is when, of course, her storyline dovetails back into Loki's. Well, Loki pops up and sees shit going down. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? And we get the classic Loki, Kid Loki, and boastful Loki. The Loki with the hammer, and alligator Loki. They're like, shut up, come on. See that thing over there? It's Alathoth. We need to get out of here before this. So, at first, I didn't know what Alathoth was, and then I looked into it with the MCU, and that is connected to Kang the Conqueror. So, that's a really big thing of like, Kang the Conqueror is a big kind of thing. Now, granted, if anything deals with time travel, Kang usually needs to be involved because of his whole shtick being tied with time travel. So it's like, okay. Now, it's a little bit changed up here to where it's more of a guard dog of what's going on, rather than kind of like its own kind of end entity into itself for time travel and everything. So we'll kind of have to see how that kind of shakes out. It's like, oh shit, and it's like eating pretty much anything that's pretty much pruned there. Eating might not be the right word. It like takes people and makes things like rusted and old and shit. So he's following the rest of them to kind of going on. He's like pretty much shouting for answers. Kid Loki's like, shut the fuck up, or that thing's gonna come and eat us. So whatever. And it's funny because they're pretty much trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, what the fuck is up with the alligator thing? That's actually not the strangest thing that I've got to really go on. That's a Loki. Yeah. Okay, cool, whatever. And it's really kind of convenient that Loki gets pruned and then he's found by, like, other Lokis. So I would understand people's confusions of, like, why are these other things here? Because it seems to be, like, centralized for these Lokis. And pretty much they've just been trying to survive. Even though they've been trying to make plans and everything, they've never had the ability to kind of get out because you need kind of other devices or other things going on to be able to get out of here. So whenever they're trying to do their plans, they're like, we don't know how to deal with that fucking thing. We can try and kill it, but I mean, look at the fucking thing. It's a goddamn cloud thing. So we'll kind of have to see how it kind of works out. So they take him back to their... the League of Lokis, as I will call them, take him back to his take him back to their base, and we just see that mainly Kid Loki seems to be the one that's in charge. And the thing is, they give more of the stuff to the classic Loki, and kind of the boastful Loki. The Kid Loki's not bad, but they don't really give him much else to really kind of do. And we see some kind of interesting kind of Easter eggs. We see the Thanos helicopter, and that's kind of funny because Thanos did have a helicopter at one point in the comics. It was kind of before they were kind of like really honing in on him being kind of like as big of a cosmic threat as he is. And yes, it did have Thanos on the side of it, and it's just like... But one of the kind of other interesting Easter eggs is they were going down into the base, and we see Mjolnir, and we see Frog Thor kind of trying to go for it, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. And while they were walking to the base, we kind of get some backstory. Kid Loki was grabbed as a variant because he killed his brother Thor, and that's about all we get from him. They're sitting down kind of comparing stuff going on. Boastful Loki's talking about, yeah, I defeated Captain America and Iron Man and all blah 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 blah, but of course he's the boastful one. Evidently the alligator one ate the wrong pet or something like that, and that's how he became a variant. The classic older Loki's talking about how instead of dying during the whole Ragnarok thing with Thanos, he made a very, very good illusion, hid among the debris, went to a planet, and the reason he did that is because he had seen that like he was causing all this kind of trouble and chaos and didn't want to do that and wanted to go and live off on his own. But the thing is, he then became lonely and wanted to see his brother and like other people. And the minute he tried to step off of there, TVA came, grabbed him, bam. And I gotta hand it to him. I really like the costuming for it because it really hits like Loki's early comic costumes, and it looks a little bit better than this, like what we saw briefly in the end credits teaser at the last episode. Seeing it in action is pretty kind of cool. Well, they're pretty much sitting there and everything, but then Endgame's Loki's like, you know what? I kind of want to go and do something. I don't know. I'm going to go try and kill that thing or whatever. And they're like, good luck with that. He opens up the hatch, and then suddenly all the other Lokis are like there. It's like, hey, yeah, whatever. And this is like President Loki. He's like, yeah, boastful Loki made a deal with me so that way I can have Kid Loki's kingdom. And this is just like the worst bits of these Lokis as they start pretty much fighting each other. Fucking alligator Loki bites off President Loki's hand. He does this crazy ass scream, and they're just like fighting and everything. And it's just, alright. Well, classic Loki is able to create a portal and like takes him, Kid Loki, alligator Loki, and Endgame Loki out. Let's see. So he pretty much is trying to figure out how to go and kill Alathoth. And of course we see that branch timeline appears up. It like goes and takes it out. It's like, yeah, I could. Said he was just gonna wait for it to do that and then try and get it. And it's like, shit, there's not a real weakness there. He's like, well, if it does these kind of things, if it's a beam, it should be able to die. Like, it's like, all right, yeah, you got kind of a point there, but you got to be able to like get to its like brain and heart and shit. Well, let's go back a little bit and then link up with how Sylvie kind of gets into this. She gets pooped out because she got pruned. Well, not like literally like falling out or anything. She wakes up at this kind of thing, and Alathoth is trying to kind of like consume her ass, and she's like blasted through these things and kind of enchants it and gets a kind of vision of something. It's like, what the fuck's going on? But then we see that Mobius comes in a pizza mobile and like saves her ass, and they pretty much had their own kind of talk. Her calling him like an asshole for the stuff that he did. He's like, yeah, that I kind of own on that. And the thing is, she's kind of done bad things as well with how she was going after the people and killing all the Minutemen. Now, granted, they put more of the focus on the fact that the whole TVA as the organization is the worst ones off here. Even though Sylvie has been killing people, thing is, they're also brainwashed people. So if she's got this whole thing with the enchantment, she should be able to like get them out and like try and turn. Oh shit! Did I just fucking do something that could have been like? Why was? She's been doing this for years. Now, granted, Loki brought this up. He's like, I don't know if it's been days in New York or months or what. If she's been doing this for years, why hasn't she just been like enchanting them, drawing out their memories, and being like, hey, you guys are variants, and building up her own kind of anti-time variance authority group made up of variants to attack the. Shit. That actually would have been a better plan. Granted, I understand not trusting people and shit, but like she could have been like, instead of killing them, she could have just, that would have been more interesting. And then she could have introduced them at key points to create branch paths and everything to leave and create more Nexus events to get the TVA to be split out better, to have made her ability to get to the timekeepers better. Shit. We'll have to see how this kind of shakes out, because that's kind of a big kind of thing. But she gets saved by Mobius. They're pretty much talking about the stuff going on. Let's see. Renslayer's also trying to get to things on her and talking to B-15, pretty much like, fuck this shit. Who's doing this? Who's behind all this? And she even asks what's going on with the formation of the Time Variance Authority of the Miss Minutes chick to get that information because they need to be protected. And the Miss Minutes like, all right, cool. And that's pretty much where that shakes out. But as our endgame Loki is pretty much surveying to try and like take out Alathoth, they get together with Sylvie. She pops something like, what the hell's going on? He's like, no, these are my friends. We're going to try and do this kind of stuff and take this thing out. She's like, you know what? I think I can try and enchant it because I got a vision kind of thing. It could lead us. It's a guard dog. It could lead us to who's doing this, because this evidently seems like a pretty good place to kind of like hash this kind of shit out. We see Mobius kind of being like, I've never dealt with a fucking alligator Loki. What the fuck? And it's funny. They're like shooting the shit and everything, the Lokis and them. We get some nice kind of moments between Loki and Sylvie as they're trying to figure out what's going on. Loki, of course, does the whole kind of like blanket thing, which is kind of cool, and they're kind of sweet, adorable little couple thing. She's like, how do I know I can trust you? He's like, well, I betrayed a lot of people, but I'm not going to betray you. And you can see it and believe it, because this Loki's been through some weird shit. Not the same kind of shit that we've seen, like, our prime Loki moving through the MCU, but he's been through some stuff, and he's like, you know what? You've been dealing with me straight. The Time Variance Authority is doing some stupid-ass shit and needs to go down. So, they pretty much get up and that they're going to do that. Classic Loki, Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki are like, good luck to you guys. We're going to kind of head off and do our own thing. Mobius is like, alright, cool. And Loki says goodbye to him as they give the temp pad. It's like, okay, because a big kind of thing that we saw before Sylvie pruned herself is that she had Renslayer's temp pad on her, and it's like, alright, she got it. And it was kind of weird because Renslayer was using a temp pad to like do some other stuff, so I'm like, okay, I guess they got her a new one. So Mobius is like, yeah, I'm just gonna go back and burn the whole place down, pretty much. And Loki's like, you know, you're a true friend. And we see Mobius say like, yeah, your whispers, you're my favorite to like the Sylvie one or whatnot, and goes through the portal, and that's kind of the last that we see of him. So we see that they're trying to wait for like a branch line to appear, but they're like, fuck that shit. So Endgame Loki goes off and pretty much tries to distract it, but it's going after Sylvia. She's attempting to enchant it. And then we see the classic Loki decides to use his vastly awesome illusion abilities to pretty much create an illusion of Asgard. And then, of course, our Loki teams up with her. She's able to kind of show him how to use enchantment as well. So he's got a new power tool set so that they both do it together and are able to pretty much enchant Elithotep, but not before it is able to take and consume the classic Loki. It's like a pretty good way to go out. But they are able to enchant it, and it then opens up and we see some kind of citadel keep kind of area. And it's like, all right, we're doing this, which is interesting because I get vibes of the Wizard of Oz / the Dark Tower series. Like as they're going to the Dark Tower at the end, it's like it's pretty kind of cool. It's like, but the thing is, this thing has been a cloud thing that's been like moving through. But the thing is, in the MCU, it's kind of like a temporal kind of entity. So having some kind of thing within it like this kind of makes sense. So maybe it's not really eating or destroying people. It's kind of keeping people away, but like getting them caught up. I don't know. We'll have to see. But since Elithotep is connected to Kang, we'll have to. It wouldn't be that far of a guess that Kang is somehow involved in this. Now, granted, since Kang is usually messed around with time-wise, this Kang could be different than the Kang that we see in, like, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So it's not that big of a thing, because we've got the usual King the Conqueror that deals with, like, the Avengers. We got one that's in Egypt. We actually have an Iron Lad that is a younger version of Kang that didn't want to be Kang, who's got pretty much a suit that's like Iron Man that is in the Young Avengers. It gets messy, so I'm intrigued to see how they kind of play this out and everything. And hopefully it is just done in a better kind of way, because granted, I understand that you need information and to show things and tell things and get through those things. They just need to be done and executed in an interesting kind of way. Because the Loki fight was kind of fun, but we didn't stay on it long enough to really kind of do much with it, except just be like, oh, okay, yeah, we got a lot of Lokis, let's kind of see this go on. And again, since it was mostly kind of green screen stuff of like not really exploring much in the void, it really reminded me of the Lamentis one where, like, okay, we're just here and we're not really doing much with it. Because it's like, oh, I don't know, since it's the Void, it's got all these things from all these different timelines. I mean, they could have cobbled some weird kind of awesome shit together, seen kind of awesome kind of shit, and they just kind of didn't do that. It's literally like, okay, you got this cool kind of place, and you don't use it to its fullest potential. I mean, it's not like they completely pissed on it, but there's a lot of other stuff that they could have done with this. So, hopefully the next one is going to have a lot of work to do to kind of pull everything together and kind of answer everything and kind of end out. It's like, this is a lot for one episode, so we'll have to see how this kind of works. And that kind of sucks, because with this episode and the Lamentis one handled better and fixed a little bit, we wouldn't be at this point where, like, you kind of got a lot of work to do in this last episode to kind of end everything and set everything up for what we're supposed to do. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.